Comedian Funny Maine back and ready for another week of college football. I know it's hard to believe, but we are 10 weeks into the season. My goodness, it is flying by. But I got three big questions going into week number 10. Let's get into them. My number 3 question is this. Which slate of games will be more chaotic this weekend? We know that the initial playoff rankings will be released later tonight, but I'm using Eastern Standard Time here. So in that 3:30 window, you got number 14 Missouri going to Athens to face number 1 Georgia. Then you got number 4 Florida State going on the road at Pitt. Number 9 Penn State going on the road versus Talia Tagovailoa and Maryland. And you got number 10 Oklahoma on the road at their rival Bedlam, Oklahoma State. Number 21 Tulane on the road at ECU. And then number 23 James Madison on the road at Georgia State. Keep James Madison in mind. They'll come back up in the show. Then in that 7 o'clock p.m. window, you got number 22 Kansas going on the road at Iowa State. Number 5 Washington going on the road at 24 USC. And of course, number 13 LSU going on the road at number 8 Bama. Just looking at that schedule, man, there is room for some calamities, some shakeups, some everything to not only the AP poll, but of course the college football playoff poll. So I'm just wondering which of those hours of football is going to be the most chaotic. I'm sure just like myself, you guys will be tuned in. My number 2 question, I told y'all they come back up, but James Madison University, will they get an exemption from the NCAA to participate in the bowl matchups? And I know some of y'all are like, well, what's going on with them? Well, James Madison, they are making the move up to the FBS, the Football Bowl subdivision. And the rules state that you got to take 2 years of no postseason play. And the nature of that rule, or the idea behind it, is for schools to spend that time making necessary investments for the jump. Also, the postseason ineligibility is supposed to be the price of the move to deter schools from trying to fast track a leveling up of their programs. Meaning, if you've been dominating at the lower level, they don't want you to just come in and, dominate the conference at the higher level. I know, it's the rule, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But back in April, James Madison, they appealed to the NCAA to get that exemption. They were denied. And it turns out the Attorney General of the state of Virginia, he's actually a graduate of James Madison. So he has written a letter, an appeal letter to the NCAA. James Madison is still undefeated. They're currently ranked in the top 25. And there is a stipulation that if there's not enough bowl eligible teams, which you got to have 6 wins to be, then James Madison, if they have over 6 wins, they could possibly sneak into a bowl game. But you got to think with their record, they're probably looking at playoffs and one of those big New Year's Eve bowl games. But I'm wondering, will James Madison get that exemption? Because I personally would love to see the 2023 version of their team go up against one of the big dogs in college football. But we'll see if they get that exemption. And my number 1 question going into this week, we know we're all waiting for the initial playoff rankings to be released tonight on ESPN. But my question is, which team in the initial rankings will not make the playoffs? I had to go back and do a little research. And since 2014, since we had the playoff, only 21 of the 36 teams that were ranked in the initial rankings actually made the playoffs. That's about 58.3%, so somewhere around half or a little bit over of the teams in the initial ranking only make the playoff. Now, if you've been watching football this year, you got to believe that Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida State have locked up the top 4 positions in the initial rankings. I have a hard time seeing which 2 of those 4 teams could make the playoffs because they're all playing tremendously right now. But as college football, you just never know what can happen from week to week. But those are my questions going into week number 10. If you want to get caught up on all of my questions from the previous weeks to see how they've been answered, please visit my YouTube or Facebook page. All of the videos are still available.